Welcome to the details now. Investigations by the BNI, National Security and NPA review that on the basis of previous practice where contaminated fuel has been sold to companies, BOST has been cleared of any wrongdoing following a sale of contaminated fuel to Moving Pena. Speaking at a press conference in a few minutes ago, the Energy Minister Agyarko established some findings based on which the BNI arrived at the decision. Meanwhile, the ministry has expressed worry over the yearly case of contaminated fuel and have, as a result, has set up a committee led by Dr. Lawrence Dakwa, head of chemical engineering at KNUST, to review operations of BOST in a bid to prevent future contamination. Favor Nunu has been covering that press conference and he will join us shortly with some details. But let's hear from Minister Agyarko.
The Ministry of Energy has followed recent events relating to the sale of contaminated products by the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited, BOST, which has generated public interest over the past week. The Ministry has oversight responsibility for BOST and has dutifully taken interest in the matter. Further to our intention to set up a ministerial committee on the matter, the ongoing investigations by the National Security, the Bureau of National Investigations, and the National Petroleum Authority have so far established the following findings, which have informed our understanding and assessment of the situation. They are as follows. The contamination of the 5 million liters occurred on January the 18th. This was before the current BOST MD assumed office. 2. BOST, as a matter of practice, has sold contaminated products as far back as 2014. Over 8 million liters of contaminated fuel was sold in 2015, and over 12 million liters was sold in 2016. The 5 million liters sold is less than that for 2015 and 2016. 3. The absence of refining capacity at all precluded the possibility of saving the contaminated products through refining process. 4. The sale of contaminated products has thus far been to individuals, union members, and companies that have largely not been licensed by the NPA. From 2015 to 2016, a total of 49 unlicensed companies and individuals bought contaminated products from BOST at 1 cedi or less. 5. By selling to individuals and union members, for example, it is clear that by practice, a company did not even have to be registered to buy contaminated products from BOST. In the particular case of Moving Pena, which bought the 5 million liters of contaminated product, it was a duly incorporated company under the Companies Code of Ghana at the time the transaction occurred. 6. There is a market for contaminated products that is quite separate and apart from the normal market for petroleum products. It is therefore not possible to sell contaminated products at pump prices, since they require further processing before utilization. 7. BOST received expressions of interest for the purchase of contaminated products from 15 companies, and Movenpina offered the highest price of 1 cedi 30 pesos, which formed the basis for the selection. This is the highest price ever offered for contaminated products. 8, it is not the case that the MD of BOST owns the company that bought the products. And 9, it is also not true that the address of or phone number of Movenpina is the same as that of the BOST MD. In the investigations carried out so far by the state security agencies and the MPA shows that on the basis of previous practice, there was no wrongdoing at BOST on the sale of the 5 million liters for the contaminated products. We wish to plead and advise that social media commentators will do all of us some good to check and cross-check some of these facts before making some of these allegations, because they tend to cause unnecessary panic amongst petroleum product consumers. The ministry also refers to the statement by NPA, which was issued last week, assuring that the contaminated products have been fully accounted for and therefore have not been delivered to retail stations on the market. We wish to confirm that contaminated products are currently being quarantined at the various depots and do not pose any danger to public safety. The question going forward is whether we have to have new codified processes for dealing with contaminated products. To this effect, the ministry will start the implementation of the following recommendations, some of which have been pending from previous investigation reports on the sale and discharge of contaminated products. They include the following: review and introduce new regulations on the sale and discharge of contaminated products. B, codify and publish widely a competitive tender process based on transparent advertisement for the sale of products that have become contaminated. C, implement improved standard operating procedures at all petroleum depots, the management, operations, and maintenance of the pipeline systems to prevent future occurrences of such accidents of product contamination. D, continuous training and skills upgrade for operators of BOSTs and other petroleum depots. E, the controlled evacuation and disposal of products under the direct supervision of the National Petroleum Authority. F, register and certify only corporate entities that will be designated to buy contaminated products directly from BOST. These entities will be required to go back to NPA to file reconciled records of disposal. G, no unlicensed company, individual, or union member can trade in contaminated products henceforth. The ministry is extremely concerned about the fact that year in and year out, we are faced with the contamination of large volumes of products through preventable accidents. Our focus now must be on taking all the necessary steps and actions to ensure that this is brought to an immediate end.
Energy Minister Agyarko there. Like I said, the minority has been responding to this in equal measure, while their leader, Haruna Idrisu, is accusing the BNI of a cover-up in this contaminated fuel saga. He claims that the BNI's investigation has indicated that there was nothing wrong, but they doubt it, and of course they are citing them for cover-up. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, our parliamentary correspondent, is standing by in Parliament for a reaction from the minority to the latest on this dirty fuel saga. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Gifty.
Yes, Joseph, if you can hear me, we've already spoken about, we know now what the minority's position is. Of course, they're not buying any of what the Ministry of Energy is saying. Give us more details on what informs their position.
And so even before the Energy Minister addressed this press conference and gave the full details when it comes to what he intends to do next with that particular contaminated fuel saga, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu has been speaking to the press here. He thinks that there's been a situation of an attempted cover-up at the level of the Bureau of National Investigations when it comes to its investigations into this particular incident. To quote him, he is claiming that there's been a situation of an admission on the part of the MPA that the companies involved in this were not licensed. And so for him, there's a situation of a fraudulent incident and a corruption incident which the BNI is attempting to cover up. He goes on to make the point that they think that the latest recommendations are out of place, and that they think that the president should allow the ministerial committee to do its work when it comes to the investigation. But just briefly on that, let me speak to a member of the minority, the deputy minority spokesperson on the Mines and Energy Committee, Adam Mutawakil. Honorable, thanks very much for joining us. So today we've heard from the Energy Minister, the Honorable Agyarko, and he's been indicating that with regards to the way forward, the BNI investigation has actually cleared the officials of BOST when it comes to the transaction relating to the sale of the contaminated fuel. How are you reacting to this?
Yeah, we picked the information, and that is why our able minority leader had a press conference to brief you about the situation. This is a pure cover-up. Please, let's be serious, Ghanaians. Nanado and Bawumia government must be serious. They must take Ghanaians serious. This massive corruption that has taken place, you single out the MD. Is it because we in minority are calling for the head of the MD? And that is the justice call, very clear justice we made by saying that the MD should step aside. Investigation should be continued. With this cover-up, all what the committee will be doing is impotent.
What do you mean?
Not produce any resource.
What do you mean by a cover-up? The BNI is an independent institution. They've looked at this and indicated that based on previous processes when it comes to the sale of contaminated fuel, there was nothing fraudulent, nothing wrong happened.
Now, Nanado and Bawumia now believe that BNI does good work. When did they start believing what BNI does? That's the question. They have almost indicated every day that BNI and other security agencies are not doing good job. When have they turned out to believe the work of BNI? Is that the first report? The Deputy Minister for Agyarko, Jojo, what happened?
Yeah, the minority leader made reference to that and indicated that they misled Parliament on that.
They are simply using BNI as a cover-up for the MD to continue and stay in office and stifle the work of the committee that they have set up. Even the committee, how can you give them term of reference without a time frame to bring the report? That itself is a big problem. The committee can take 1 year, can take 4 years, can take 10 years to submit their report. So you see the intentional move by Nanado Bawumia government to ensure that the corruption that has taken place at BOST do not go anywhere. This is very clear.
So what are you expecting? That this committee should have been given the mandate to investigate the BOST MD as well on whether or not he did the right thing?
Very, very important. The committee, first of all, the BOST MD should have stepped aside, should have at least interdicted by now to show a sign that the President Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia are committed to fighting corruption. Let the investigation go on. You give them a time frame within which to submit the report. None of this has happened. So the committee is just given a field day. And by the so-called BNI report to make a cover-up has rendered the committee impotent.
One other thing that your leader made reference to today was the concern about contaminated fuel getting into the vehicles of people. We repeatedly heard the NPA and other institutions assure us that all the fuel have been accounted for and that none of the contaminated ones are out there. How come you, the minority, particularly your leader and other leadership, continue bringing up this allegation as Haruna Idrisu did?
The first question I want to ask is, did NPA know the time this fuel was transported from the tanks of BOST to Zoop Oil? It was when ASEP and the minority raised an issue before they made a follow-up. And that is a sign of not being a proper regulator. A regulator, contaminated fuel is being transported from BOST tanks to Zoop Oil, which is not even registered with NPA, and you can't pick any signal, and you tell me now that you have checked and it is not. In the first place, you have made a big mistake. You have not performed to the law, and that alone is a shame. Okay. It's a very big shame. By coming out to say they have been able to account for it and all that, I know as they were auditing, some were not accounted for.
So finally, you don't think that the work of the latest investigative committee to be headed by the head of the chemical engineering department at KNUST, you are not convinced they would amount to anything positive?
They are not coming out with anything positive. Nothing will come out of it. Once the boss head is already, they've manipulated to cover up to say he is cleared, nothing will come out of it. Nothing. Yes. And it will haunt Bawumia, Nana Akufo-Addo Bawumia, come 2020.
We'll see how that goes.
Them round.
We'll see how that goes. That's the Honorable Mutawakil. He's Deputy Minority Spokesperson on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. Back to you, Gifty.
Joseph Opoku Gakpo with that updates there. Well, that is the minority's position. Favor Nunu is standing by at where the press conference was held earlier today. Favor joins me for some behind-the-scenes information. Favor, if you can hear me, we know that the minister has now stated the ministry's official position on this matter. But did he provide any timelines within which all of the recommendations, for instance, are supposed to be dealt with?
Well, with respect to this, the minister has actually put out that indeed the committee that has been set up would be looking into the standard procedures that should be applied by the committee or by the petroleum sector in terms of how BOST operates and all that. And the committee is supposed to look into this. One interesting point that came out from this is what do we make of the committee, the 8-member committee that the same ministry set up to look into the BOST contaminated fuel sale? And his response to this question is that to a very large extent, the functions of the committee, the terms of reference that were assigned this committee have not dissolved. It hasn't changed, except, of course, this time around, the very new committee that has been set up, led by Dr. Lawrence Dakwa with the KNUST Chemical Engineering Department would take the lead, whereas the committee that was set up to look into the case would work with it. And so there is a new leader of a committee, and the former committee, the 8-member committee, continues to exist, except, of course, this time around, they work under the orders of Dr. Lawrence with the Chemical Engineering Department at KNUST. And for them, their terms of reference would be to look into how the standard procedures within the petroleum sector can be maintained in order to prevent future contamination of fuel, as has been experienced in previous years, the minister notes.
All right, Favor, thank you very much for that update. Favor Nunu standing by at the Energy Ministry, from where the Energy Minister has been giving us their position on the contaminated fuel. What we do know at this point is that no wrongdoing has been assigned the MD of BOST. Just so watching the pulse with me, Gifty and Doppia.